What's up, everyone? Good evening. Hope you're having a great day. This is Nathan Hinckley with the Bishop's Interview, and pumped to be with you again. Definitely have a fun show in store. Before we introduce our guest, I want to say hello to the chat. Hello, everyone. Yes, everyone's. Everyone's saying, hey, it's an early night tonight. Well, it feels early with the time change. I have some people letting me know that I'm up against some other shows tonight, and we realize that, well, after the fact, but that's okay. We're here to have a good time tonight, so you guys know where to go for a good time. Hello, Nathan, Peter, Ronnie. I'm going to say Joel, but that's probably Cindy, Mike, some guy. Everyone's up in the chat, so we appreciate it. Before I introduce my guest, let me, hey, Freddie, let me just give a quick update. If you guys have been following me for a little bit, you know my eye has been jacked up, but I'm happy to say that it's almost back to normal, so that's good. I did a service project this weekend for a girl that was on Mormon Stories. And so we went out to her house. This was Anna, one of the recent Mormon Stories. This was one of the rooms that she was just, really needing some help with. This is the way it was when we showed up. We spent the weekend there, but we spent the day working. And this is what it was when I left. So one day, and we did some good work there. There's actually some ceiling work, and I put in some lights and some power for the TV. So that was fun. And this was my work crew. I got my wife, my daughter, and her husband, and there's Anna in the middle. So we had a good weekend. You know us, ex-Mormon helping hands. So that was fun. But you know what? Let's get to our guests. I'm really excited about this. You guys are going to love this duo. You may have already come across their content. I have the feeling that they are blowing up. I think that they're great. I've been checking out their stuff today and also the past few days. As a quick intro, this is sort of the artwork that I'm using. I think they're both adorable. I think their podcast idea is great. And so this is, okay, I'll admit it, their name, is a little bit long, but an ExMo and a NeverMo walk into a bar. So we're going to go ahead and bring them in. This is Erika and Kate. Hello, gals. How are you?
Hello. Hi. Doing great. Thanks, Nathan. Thanks
Oh my gosh. So, how are you all tonight?
We're doing well.
We're fantastic. We spent the day editing a reel, so looking at a lot of our stuff and just working really hard all day. But it's fun. We love it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, so you guys, you joined me just a few minutes before we went live, and I was looking at your names there in the bottom of the screen, and they were reversed from Erika and Kate, and we were like, come on, what do we do? And all of a sudden the light bulb went off, and one of you said, let's just switch seats, and boom, we had it fixed.
Ding, ding, ding.
So sometimes it's the easiest way to fix the. So do you guys see the chat on your side, just in case? So there should be something in the corner that says comments. Do you see that? I just wanted you all to be able to follow along.
Yes,
now we
do.
can see it. Yes.
Sorry, we had something up. Oh, yay. I'm glad that we did that.
So everyone in the comments, make sure you reach out. These you're going to love these two if you don't know them already. But Erika and Kate, why don't you just take a quick moment, each of you, kind of introduce yourself and tell us where you guys live, and then we'll get into a little bit more of your podcast.
You want to go first?
Sure, I'll go ahead. Just so you know, like our podcast is a long name. An ExMo and a NeverMo walk into a bar. I'm the ExMo, Erika's the NeverMo, and we know that like sometimes churches like to make the name extra long to make it difficult. We want to make it easier for you. So we decided what would be an easier way to refer to us, and we're the two no-mos is what we are. we are no
No
mo.
mo's. No more mo's.
Yes. So
Okay, before you get into more of the intro, you've got to do your little intro for us that you all do at the beginning of each of your podcasts. So let's hear it
Okay.
there.
Hi, welcome to another episode of an ExMo.
And an EverMo.
Walk into a bar. I'm
I
Kate,
love.
And I'm Erika.
and we are ready to have a podcast. But today, an ExMo and EverMo are walking into the bishop's office.
Oh
And we're
yeah.
very
Well,
happy about that.
Cheers in the bishop's office.
Yay, cheers.
What are you drinking there?
So my wife found this drink. Okay, I'll tell you, she's very particular, as I guess I am too. We're totally new at this whole thing, and she told the bartender the other day, she's like, I don't know, just give me something sweet. And and I heard your all's podcast today about the sweet stuff. But anyways, this is oh come on, this is what's the coconut?
Sex on the beach?
No, it's Sex in a Pond. No, the Malibu. So this is Malibu, pineapple juice and cherry.
Ooh, that sounds really good. You would probably want to throw up.
Yes, it's not for me. I do the, I'm either a dirty martini, Bloody Mary, or whiskey on the rocks.
Okay. So I cut you guys off. Go ahead and give us that little bit of intro about yourselves, where you're at, a little bit about who you are, so our audience can get to know you real good.
Yeah, so Eric and I are both in Utah. We're in Salt Lake County, and the Daybreak community, which is in South Jordan for anyone who might be familiar with that. I am the ex-Mormon here. I have only been out of the church a year and a half. But Eric and I actually met, like 3 years ago, maybe?
Yeah, 2, 3 years ago. And she was still Mormon. I was obviously never Mormon because I never was Mormon. And I thought that when we first met, we did not like each other at all. And the idea that we would ever become friends, if you had said to either of us in the moment that we met, you guys are going to be really good friends one day and have a podcast together, we'd have laughed in their face. Yeah, I thought that she had a rod up her butt.
Yeah, because I did. And I thought you were a dirty heathen. So.
And I am.
Like she was showing off her porn shoulders, what she was doing. But anyway, we knew each other because, my ex-husband worked with her. And so we kind of had to meet a time or two. But yeah, then a year and a half ago, my whole life just kind of exploded and became like midlife ExMo is what I'm going through, like a midlife crisis / transition as I left the church and a lot of other things all at once. And I started a TikTok page, and Erika came across that. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I ran into a mutual acquaintance who said, have you seen anything from Kate lately? And I said, no, we're not really friends. I know her from her ex-husband that I worked with, or husband at the time. I didn't even know. She said they got divorced. She left the church and she created this amazing TikTok. You need to go check it out. And I wasn't even TikToking. I don't even know if I had an account. I may have created an account
to stalk me
just so I could
flattered
her content. But I was working in Mormon Central Utah, so Provo, Orem, like the hive, and everything was a super shock for me. So and no one was leaving. So and there was, you probably know this, but there's a point at which communication stops when you're talking with someone in the church. And for someone who's never experienced that kind of thing, it's really jarring. And that's what I knew of, like, Kate, who is also married to a Mormon. So when I saw her TikTok, I was like, how is she doing this? I didn't know anyone who had deconstructed, and it was fascinating to me. And I watched so many, just little episodes or TikToks, videos. And then she mentioned one where she said that she was really kind of sad because some of her friends had ostracized her. So I decided to be a total creeper. And I sent her a message. I said, I used to work with your husband, ex-husband. I don't know if you remember me, but but I'm sorry about your friends. And if you want to meet for a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, exclamation point, we can go do that. And I just wanted to send you some love. Yeah. And then we met up, we chatted for like,
we hit it off instantly. We had so much in common that we didn't know before and became really good friends. And then just this last fall, we were like, are you thinking what I'm thinking? I'm like, yeah, we're doing a podcast together. Because every time we get together, we can't shut up. We just talk and talk and talk and talk. And a lot of it is about like faith deconstruction. And I don't know a lot of Never Mormons. I mean, I grew up in Provo, and like everyone I knew, my family, my neighborhood, my teachers at school, everybody I knew was a member of the church. And I didn't want to really get to know people that had left or even befriend people who weren't members. And so I find it fascinating to hear Erika's perspective, where she's just like in a constant state of what the hell's going on here? Like, why you do what? And so we had these conversations and we're like, well, let's just share these conversations with others. And so we just launched our podcast the end of January, and it's a lot of fun, and we're finding a lot of support. It's great.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's been awesome. And it's fascinating for me to be able to have these conversations with Kate on the other side. And I'll always ask her, like, what would you have thought, then? Because now you have this whole, you remember those like magic eye things that you used to look at in like the 90s? They were really popular. And if you unfocused your eye, then suddenly you could see this 3D thing and you couldn't unsee it.
Yeah.
That's kind of like how I picture it for her. Like, she was in this world and all this stuff was invisible to her, anything not Mormon. So you couldn't even have a conversation about it. Mm-hmm. And now, like, she can see the whole 3D thing and we can talk about the 3D thing. But it's also fascinating to me to hear, like, how would this have landed with you before? How are you doing this on the other side? And I'm a weirdo. I'm totally fascinated by it.
Well, look, I think you guys are both wonderful. You're adorable. You have a great thing going. So this is really exciting. Mike says, I'm here for NeverMo backup in case of a bar fight. So appreciate that, Mike. We might need that support as my drink gets a little lower and lower. My wife just texted me because she brought it to me and she said, sorry, it might be a little strong. So we'll see what happens here.
It'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a fun evening.
So just kind of hearing you talk about Kate, Erika, and how, you talk about this kind of 3D, analogy of not being able to see things, and now she does. And I can totally relate to that. I have a friend we had an a cappella group back in high school together, and he's crazy musically talented, probably one of the most talented musical guys that I know. Well, he has a tribute band, a Stone Temple Pilots tribute band.
Nice.
They kill it. Well, anyway, long story short, when I was in the very early stages of my deconstruction, which was about 2 years ago, so Kate, you and I were probably about the same time, he had posted on Facebook that he was doing a show downtown in Knoxville, close to where we live. And I reached out to him and I was like, hey, I'm thinking about going. And hey, I might see you there. And he told me afterwards, he was like, he's rolling his eyes. He's like, there's no way Nathan Hinckley is coming to my show. And he's just like, there's no way. Like, that ain't going to happen, And I walked through the door with my wife, and it's your classic downtown bar scene. Ooh. And he's up on stage, and packed house. And I walk by, and he goes, Nathan Hinckley is here, and he like calls me out. I mean, it was like eye-opening to me because he knows how I was my whole life. And Kate, you and I, we know how each other were. And there was no way I was going to that place. Now, having said that, my parents actually, I may be a little bit of an interesting situation because we were raised on music on my parents. I was born in Utah, but we moved to the South because my parents had a band, a duo, and
Cool.
they played in bars and different places,
Oh,
but they never,
edgy.
they never, like lived that lifestyle or anything. They were just
Right.
a Mormon music duo that. So anyways, I say all that to say, I showed up for him, and I realized when he was so floored that I was there to support him, I realized that I, number one, have missed out on a lot of opportunities. Number two, I have made other people feel like he had no expectation that I would show up, even though I told him, hey, we're thinking about going. He's like, nope, that ain't gonna happen. And even though he was a pretty close friend of mine, he was like, yeah, that Mormon ain't coming. And he knew nothing about the deconstruction and all that. So anyways, I feel so much better now. I feel so much more authentic. I don't have to live, this lie. And that's what I see as I've watched your all's content today and a couple times previously. I see you both just celebrating living authentically. So I love what you're doing.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. I think that's a big part of it, and something that's really interesting to see with her. And I had the same kind of inclination, like when we were first becoming friends. When she was coming out, I was constantly sort of afraid I was going to spook her, like something would happen, or I was worried that at some point she'd be like, oh, and she'd go running back to the church for some reason, and I would invite her to things and be like, well, just so you know, like, it's going to be a little rowdy or this or that, like give her like a preface so that she didn't like freak out, which she was not doing.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, can I tell this story?
Please do.
So she was like, well, about dating in quotes.
Sorry, yes.
In the Mormon church. And I know how that works, but she was dating after she had left her husband, and she texted me, and she was like, I hope I can say this on here. You can bleep me if you can.
No, everything's fair game tonight.
Okay, cool. She said, I just had my first booty call, and I was like, what? Like, I was at work, and then I thought you might be spooked. I'm like, I hope it was good. Like, I hope she's never really, like, I was like, was it good? And she was like, yeah, it was great. I was like, who are you?
Because I was the type, like when when my ex-husband was working with Erika, he and I went to go see a show there at the School of the Arts, and I walked out in the middle of it because there were too many F words in it.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I heard about her.
Yeah.
Her husband came in, and the show was the Heidi Chronicles. Okay. The Heidi Chronicles. We're not talking like some, very, like anything super dirty or racy. It was, and college students were performing it. And he came into a meeting and he said, we really need to have a content warning on this play. People are walking out because there are several F-bombs, and I know because my wife was one of them. And I was like, where the bleep am I? Like, this is bananas. And that's what I knew about you.
Yeah. And to be fair, like watching that show in Orem, Utah, or in the Provo area, I remember watching these college age kids, because I went to that school as well, and watching them say the F word, they were so uncomfortable saying that, like, F-itty F. And I was like, I don't want any of that. We're leaving now.
Look, I totally get that. I was the type, matter of fact, I would bet money that there's not a person that exists that would come forward and say, previous to 2 years ago, I heard Nathan Hinckley say a bad word. that person does not exist.
Yeah, there are more people like me.
Oh, I know. I've worked with all of them, and it was always bananas to me because I couldn't say anything, in which I wouldn't necessarily in a work environment. But sometimes, I said that. Oh, I'll say this really quick. I said shithead just because there was this racist thing that happened, and I was like, those those people are shitheads, the way that they were behaving around racism. And this 50, 60-year-old man lost his noodle. He was a bishop, actually. And I was like, I said shit, and he was like, oh, and I was like, are you 9? Like, it's been a wild ride for me here.
Mm-hmm.
It is, so I don't know if you guys have, interacted much with people of the church, but not in Utah. And
Not
I don't
much.
want to put people into groups or whatever, but where I live, like I was the only Mormon, me and my family, pretty much in our, middle school, high school area. And so if you're going to be active and faithful, like you're going to really put your neck out there. I mean, of course there's all types. You've got your people that, the way I stood up in the middle, that same a cappella group I was telling you about, we would go around and sing at like Baptist churches and different churches. And there was one time, a lot of my viewers have heard me tell this, but I stood up in the middle of a Baptist service that we were invited to, and I called the preacher out in front of the whole church, like, what you just said about Mormons is not right. He didn't know I was Mormon, and you've got your facts wrong. And if you ever want to, know that, like we really kind of were put on the spot, and so you have to, I don't know if you have to be, in Utah, where most people are Mormon. I assume you don't have to kind of put yourself out there like that as much, but out here, you definitely do.
Yeah, and people do that here as well. And I've heard from, there was someone that I worked with that had lived outside of Utah, I think in Virginia, as a Mormon, and come back here. And she said even there's like a huge difference between the Mormon population outside of the state and within the state. But even here, I mean, there's of course like the missions, and definitely like people speaking out or like asserting their Mormon asserting their Mormonness and letting you know very strongly when they disapprove. And this is, I mentioned this in one of our episodes, I think, at the performing arts organization where I worked, that was housed in a university. There was a woman performing on the stage, and she's in a professional capacity. Her skirt was just above her knee. It was slit. And a man in the audience had the audacity to pull an usher aside and said, "Could you please go tell the conductor I'll give him my jacket to put on her legs. I don't want to see her fleshy thigh."
And stories like that don't surprise me because I grew up in that environment.
And I was like,
it's like, oh, of course he did.
And I was like, I wish I was there, because I was not there that night. I would have put a paper bag over his head and said, "Problem solved."
Yeah. I love your solutions, Eric.
I did not fit in well there. I struggled. I worked there for 3 years.
When did you move, Erica, to Utah?
Yeah, so it was May of 2021. I moved here I've moved around a lot, but at that time I was living in Juneau, Alaska with my husband. He got a job here, so we moved, and we love it. Like it's a beautiful place. There's lots. Salt Lake City is actually a pretty cool city. We're very outdoorsy, so we can go camping and do all that kind of stuff. But the culture shock, especially for me, and like we live in an area called Daybreak that is not as Mormon-y. It's probably like 50% Mormon. Where I was working was like somewhere 72%, but I think specifically where I was probably closer to 90%. And I walked around in a constant state of like, I was just challenged every day by the things they would say about other races, about women, just the way that they like interacted with the world was very different from anything I've ever experienced.
So let's take just a moment, even though I have a lot of bad things to say. Tell me what good things you guys both would say about Mormon or Mormon culture. What would you say about that?
I think that the community aspect of Mormonism is remarkable. I think, I mean, it's really nice growing up in Utah. I've always been able to walk to a church building. Like there's an enclosed little culture there with your ward family. I mean, I know my neighbors as a Mormon, as a member of the church, because everybody around me is a member of the church. The community is great. They're really good at service. I mean, it's been wonderful. If you ever have a sickness or you have a baby, there's somebody at the door to help you with a casserole or whatever. Like really very service oriented, wonderful people. Some of the people that I admire the most are still members of the church. They're a certain type of member of the church because not all of them are the same. But yeah, community and service are probably the number one things I would say. What would you say?
I would say one, even though I struggled where I was working, a lot of the people you could tell were very kind. They had good hearts. Their intentions were good, which was one of the things that was so frustrating because I always felt like they were being coerced, they were being manipulated. But they are really good, thoughtful, kind people. This is going to sound, I don't know if it's going to sound condescending, but it's true. It's very clean here. And that's one of the things my husband and I noticed, especially for a city. There's something about, I don't know if it's Mormons. I would guess that it is, but it's a cleaner city than other big cities. They're very proactive about keeping things clean. And I don't mean that in a condescending way. I mean that in a nice way. It's nice to live in a city that is cleaner and probably like less drunk driving, right? So that's cool.
Yeah, there we go. And they don't shop at Costco on Sundays.
Oh yeah, that is the best. If you go to Costco at 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning, you can like skip around with your little cart and sing and dance, and we do because no one is there. Saturday though, don't do it because you'll get mowed down. It's not supposed to be on a Saturday. It's the only day they can shop.
Well, Ray says there's good people in all religions, and I want to echo that, Ray. And I want to say that the best part of Mormonism is the people. There's no doubt about it. My wife's family is, not all, because there's a couple, but for the most part, all, active and faithful. My family, same thing. There's a couple that aren't, but for the most part, active and faithful. Of course, we go back to, to pioneer days. Sorry, I'm related to Gordon B. Hinckley.
You're famous.
Yeah, so we're second cousins 3 times removed, but basically we both go back to the same brothers that originally converted. We came through one line, and that man's name is Arza, A-R-Z-A, and he was actually Brigham Young's kind of like teamster, like wagon guy. So Arza was a pretty famous name, and then Gordon B. Hinckley came from his brother. I think his name was Ira. So Arza and Ira. And actually, I think we came through like the more famous brother, and versus President Hinckley. So anyway, Hinckley was my guy. I loved that time when we shared the name. We were related. He was very open and speaking to the public and doing the interviews on what was it?
2 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that was like Mormonism's that was like the day, that was the Mormon hour, like Mitt Romney was running and the prophets speaking with all the different, and I feel like after that we just fell to shit.
I feel like it's having another moment right now, not in a like heyday kind of a way, but more in a like what are these people doing kind of, because there's the film Heretic, which I think someone
was mentioning,
which was fantastic, and then there's the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives,
yes, and the
Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey, the documentary. So people are like kind of fascinated by it right now, which is really interesting for me because I happen to just like move here right in the middle of it and be plunked down. But there is sort of like a resurgence in interest, but I think rather from a like Ooh, yeah, more like kind of how I look at it, like, wow, what? But which is interesting.
I
Yeah.
agree. I agree that it does kind of seem like we're in another moment. There's lots of. I haven't seen the Secret Life stuff, but I know it's super popular.
It's
So
different.
yeah,
It's like reality TV. It's. I thought it was a documentary. I watched like the first 5 minutes, and then I was like, I cannot do this. I don't love reality TV. I love documentaries.
And
but
Mormons don't like that kind of reality TV either because it misrepresents them.
it actually, I think, knowing like the fraction that I do about Mormonism, I do like they showed. I saw like one, maybe a preview, or maybe it was part of the scene that I watched. But one of them got married in the temple, and she had porn shoulders, and I was like, "Oh, that would never fly. That would not happen."
She knows all about what it's like to be a Mormon now.
And when I was working there, and I told you this, like I was so annoyed. Like at one point, I started looking at myself in the mirror and going like, "Oh, is this too low? Like, should I wear something? And like, is this too much shoulder?" And then I would tell myself, "I'm seeing myself through Mormon eyes." And that's what I would think every time getting dressed in the mirror, through Mormon eyes. And I was like, I should write a memoir called Through Mormon Eyes.
So, that is one of the things I've really enjoyed about your channel, your podcast, is that you do have kind of both perspectives. The first podcast that I went on, it is called Jesus for Mormons, and it's run by a guy named Kai Van Leuven. And in some of the episodes, he has on his pastor friend, female friend. And so they're kind of doing a similar thing to what you guys do, where one is explaining to the other what it's like to be Mormon. And she's like, whoa, back up. Let's go back to that, word of wisdom. What was that? That whole angle. So I've really appreciated that. So let's dive in a little bit to your content. So first of all, let me just say, I am in the videography business. I've done it for about 14 years.
Awesome.
Mostly what I end up doing is wedding related stuff. And my viewers have heard me go into this a lot, but to be brief, so we'll say I've done this for 14 years. So for the first 4 years, I was obviously super Mormon, and I was super like almost shameful of the of the weddings, because they would turn into a big party. And
Whoa.
Uh-oh. Oh no. You
Did we
froze.
is
freeze?
this okay? Like,
Oh, you froze for a second.
Oh, I froze. Oh,
We're good.
sorry about that.
We're good.
We
Okay.
missed the wedding part. You went into a wedding and it was a big party. That was the last thing we
Okay,
heard.
sorry about that. So yeah, I don't know. I have good internet here, but maybe it's freaking out. So anyway, for the first, we'll say, third of my wedding career, I was critical of the parties and the alcohol. For the middle portion, I was like, I was fine with it, but still a little uneasy. But I knew that people loosened up and had a good time. Well, the past 3 or 4 years, I've been like hoping that they would have alcohol, because it just people would be more, just more authentic and more
Liven up.
and liven up a little bit. And so that was one of the things that kind of helped this whole transition for us, is I was just seeing like these people are not bad people. And so the word of wisdom issues were kind of big in our life, as well as the whole modesty stuff. Like, I've got a couple pictures I could show you of my wife wearing something perfectly modest, just like what you're wearing right now, Erika, but being called out by some of our family. Like, oh, I can't believe you're wearing that. And it just, between a few of these things, we were living in the space for a while of trying to be like, keep going, but kind of mentally out. But once we get called out for what my wife's wearing, and I start being like, I don't know about this whole word of wisdom thing, we were like, we're out. Not to mention, all of the doctrinal truth claim issues, which that's a whole nother thing. So,
And you guys were on the same path together, like you were both exiting the church at the same time. That is phenomenal.
That's great when that happens. A
yeah,
lot of couples aren't as lucky.
absolutely. I can't imagine doing it. I mean, there were nights, and I'm not exaggerating. There were months that we would just hold each other at night, like probably not very safely tight, because everything was fucking falling apart
Wow.
in our lives. And we were like, you are all that I know that I have. Like, you know, like I don't have my family, my mom, you know, I don't have all these friends. I don't have these promises of exaltation. I don't have all this bullshit. And we would just hold each other at night. And that happened for a while. Like, and so I can't imagine going through this either alone or, you know. So yeah, very, very grateful for that.
Yeah, it's awesome. When I left, I mean, it was problematic. When I left, I also left my marriage because it was unhealthy.
Wow.
But it was really unhealthy, and leaving the church gave me permission and courage to leave something that was just, I mean, we were just like white knuckling our way to the celestial kingdom, damn it, because we're going to get there, is really what our marriage was like. So I did that at the same time, but I was so lucky that I did have some friends who had left the church. I sing in an a cappella group as well.
Oh, wow.
It's a women's barbershop organization. And I had some friends that had left the church before I had. And as soon as I finished like reading all of the literature and I got that confirmation for myself from the Spirit that none of it was true, I texted my girlfriends and I was like, none of it's true. Let's get drunk. And
I listened to that podcast today of you talking about that.
But it was so cool because I had a chance to, I mean, and they threw me this party. They threw me a coming out of the church party where I had like 8 women that mothered me into drinking. They listened to my story. They told me, I mean, and they taught me how to do it. They're like, okay, so first you got to make sure you have enough to drink. You have water, you have enough food, and you got to pace yourself, Kate. Like it was so helpful to have that. So I didn't feel like I was completely alone when I left the church. I had a community of friends that I could rely on, and I was also pretty outspoken about it. I mean, as soon as I was done, I'm like, I'm done. My birthday gift to myself is I'm authentic, everybody, and I've left the church. And a lot of people were really, really supportive. Some people are like, that's a mistake, and I'm like, so's our friendship.
So Kate, when you say you've left, have you removed your name, or is your name?
Have. Yeah. It was fall of 2023 that, I mean, my teen had left the church, I mean, mentally before I had, and they're trans. And so we left together, which was awesome.
Yeah. So my wife left. She used the Quit Mormon site.
We did too. Yeah.
My daughter took her letter up to the bishop at the church. She met with him previous to this, and she went in while we were still sort of active, and she says, look, I've got a problem with this, this, and this, and this, and this. And he, of course, didn't know, hardly anything about those topics, much less have an answer. And this was his response. And for all you bishops out there, take note that this is not the correct response when someone brings you some issues. But he said, and I quote, are you going to trade your eternal salvation for this? And my daughter sat there, who is an absolute angel. I mean, this girl, if I think I lived the gospel good, which I think I did, she outshined me by far. Like, she did it all. And she, once the bishop said, are you going to trade your eternal salvation for these piddly little problems? She got up and she says, okay, well, I think I know everything I need to know. She goes home. I don't want to tell her story because sometimes I've tried to tell her story and she's like, Dad, there was more to it than that. But anyway, she she removed her name, and I have another son that removed his name. So anyway, my name is still on the records.
Ooh.
Because I want to speak out. I've given my time, I've given my money, I've given my time, and I've given my time to being in this church, and I want to speak out as a member. Now,
Wow.
I
That's very
have
similar to like Nemo the Mormon, right?
right, yep,
Yeah.
yep. So far, I have not ever been called out and said, "Hey, what you said was untrue." Like, I don't want to lie on the church either. Like,
Yeah.
I
I don't
speak
either.
truth.
Yeah.
And if that hurts someone, I expect they'll probably excommunicate me, but they have not yet. And
Wow. Maybe they're hoping to pull you back in. Since you were a bishop, I can't even imagine having like that extra layer of like, it's one thing to be a member. And like I said, I worked with someone who was a bishop, who was a really nice guy and a thoughtful, smart person. And we would have conversations and I would just go like, how are you doing? Like how, but then I knew he was so entrenched. I can't imagine him ever leaving. I mean, my curiosity is like, how is that? I mean, like she was like level here. You were like level way up, you know what I mean? Like, or down here. I don't know which way it
Yeah.
goes. Like super entrenched as
Yeah.
a bishop. How like, that must be mind blowing. Do you ever just look back and go
Right.
like, what?
yeah, it's every day. Every day, I go like, I can't believe. I see. I'm thankful for where we're at now, but I see people who have had much harder things to deal with than I have. I was just listening to another podcast. Oh no, it was on your all's site, where it was the dude that grew up in polygamy and a polygamous family.
Mhm.
Yeah, I hear stuff like that, and I'm like, well, I guess it wasn't that bad, when I was raised in. So, it is what it is. But all things being said, I am so much more happy and so much more just like we said before, like authentic and real. I've had moments with, so my sister is out. I have three siblings. There's four of us. My sister's out. My two brothers are in. And then on my wife's side, one of her sisters is out and two of them's in. So we've had times with each of these people that we just have the most heartfelt, just connecting, as we sit, oftentimes with a drink or not or whatever, and just I just feel so much more a true, honest person now than I did before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
Can I ask you another question? I know
Of course.
I'm like in my podcast mode. Just because again, I'm really curious. And I asked her about this today. And so we get comments from people all the time. One, like really helpful, nice, like you're helping me comments, but a lot of comments that from people who feel very damaged by the church. So they'll say, thank you. I'm so glad I got out of that cult. Thank you. My life is a mess and I'm putting it back together. All these kinds of things. And to me,
Was this one of this was
Yeah,
one of
there you
my,
go.
wow, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just reading that on your site, and I saw some others like this, as well as some that were attacking, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But
Yeah.
go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off, Erica.
No, that was great. It's right there. That's pretty cool. So I was asking Kate, and I'm curious because you probably get the same kind of comments. Thank you so much. You're helping me. The church has been ruined my life, etc. And I asked Kate because I'm just so curious. What you're getting these comments now? When you got that, you must have heard people say things like this in the past. Like I have friends who are Mormon. They see my posts, and I wonder if they go like, oh my goodness, like this organization is there any part of them that resonates with that? I'm just sort of curious, like from your two perspectives, back in the day when someone said this organization is hurting people, how did you shut it down, or did you not even hear it? I'm just curious because you hear it, you're gonna hear it, like you can't not hear that stuff. So how did you How did you manage it then? And how do you look at it from the other side now?
That is such a interesting question, and it is so hard to put in words. I think Kate and I think we're probably thinking the same thing. Let me try to answer your question, but back up just a little bit. So, how do I say this? Okay, I have many friends, and there's one that I'm thinking of that's a total non-member, nothing to do with the church. She's reached out a lot, and she's like texting and typing. She's like throwing this, I can't believe it's a cult. That place is terrible. Can't believe you ever believed it. And while I agree with that stuff, sometimes it's kind of like when your sibling, your brother or sister, it's like, I can pick on them, but you can't, right? That whole thing. And so that was a question I had for you guys, because sometimes when I talk to non-members who want to throw around, like, I can't believe that church is so stupid. Anyone's stupid to believe it. And things like that. I don't know. It doesn't, not that I'm offended by it, but I don't love it when non-members reach out and tell me how crazy and stupid it is, because I just want to say, yes, you're right, but you don't understand why I'm not that stupid. Like, in a way, I want to say, yes, I was. It's such a mind freak, because I guess it's part of the indoctrination. You start from so young, it's all you want. I mean, I remember the day that my sister had left. I was bishop when my sister left. And me and my wife basically promised each other that we would never look at that anti-garbage that is pulling away some of the people. Like, that's all we wanted for our lives, is to stay true and faithful. Mm-hmm. So to answer your question, Erika, like, what did we do when we came across this stuff?
From people that, just so I can be clear, not from like people outside of the church saying this is dumb, but from people inside saying this hurt me. Like
ex-Mormons
who are saying, like, I was so damaged by this, because you must have, you did hear it sometimes, and she basically, well, you can talk about it. But go ahead.
Well, I'll let Kate respond in just a sec. I'll just say, this guy right here in the comments, Nathan Finstead, I did an interview with him. They left when I was bishop also, and I'll just say, like, this family is a just spiritual giant of our stake. And when they left, I can't remember if it was when my sister or them, I think it was them, that me and my wife were like, promise me you won't look at what they looked at. And like, because they were so good. So to answer your question, what do we do when, like, even faithful people, on the surface, I would say, no, there's no problems. Everything is fine. But deep down inside, it was like, whoa, there's something here. Like, we need to, well, I wouldn't say we need to look at, because my wife and I are promising each other we won't look, but somewhere deep inside, I'm like, there are problems that I don't know about. And my full time as bishop for 5 years, my time on the stake high council, I've never confronted or had anyone come at me with, like, oh, I found this or I found that. I never had those doubts or dealt with people that had doubts. So
you never did as bishop?
Nope.
Wow.
Nope.
That's impressive.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
But then I didn't talk to my bishop about my doubts either. For me to respond to that, I think that growing up in the church, like born in the covenant and being raised and indoctrinated from the time I was in diapers, I think it's the knee-jerk reaction for members of the church to defend the church. I mean, it's just, it becomes instinctual. And and having been there myself before, I have a lot of love and empathy for members of the church who are reactive. And I'm like, oh, I remember what that was like. And I know that that's kind of outside your control. because you have been roped into this. I mean, we talked about the bite model of authoritarian control in one of our episodes, just the behavior and information, thought, and emotion control that this church has done. But for me, when I was on my way, like when I was questioning things a couple of years ago, my best friend from college left the church, and she was like she had a rod up her butt a little bit further than mine was. And when she left, I was like, wonderful. Oh, thank you, Mark, for subscribing to our podcast. Appreciate that.
I think he was also hitting on you guys earlier in the chat.
I think he was too, but we were staying focused. While we were going, he kind of was.
Oh, well, that's nice.
But anyway, with this friend, when my friend left the church, I don't know what to do. I was like, wait, I thought you and I were in this together. We've had lots of gospel discussions. What do I do? Like, do I choose God in the church, or do I choose my friend? Well, of course I'm going to choose my friend. I'm going to try to do both. And I remember at one time she talked to me about how, I mean, she shared a lot of her pain, but I had boundaries. I'm like, oh, I'm not ready to hear about that. You don't need to share like masonry or whatever with me. But she said that in her conversations with ex-Mormons, because we need community too, she said of all the people she talked to, when someone left the church, members never asked them why they left, ever. And I was thinking about that at the time, because I was still this member, and I thought, well, that's not what Jesus would do. Jesus would listen. Jesus would have empathy for these people. Jesus would sit down with them in their pain and start asking them those hard questions. And so I started asking my ex-Mormon friends, like, can you tell me why you left the church? Like, what was it? And every single story I heard just had so much pain in it. They had been so deeply wounded by someone else. And I began to think, oh, there is more to this than I thought. But it had to start with like looking outside myself, looking outside the church and what it was teaching me to do, and actually seeing people for who they were.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll also say, in terms of like our content, and going back to what you said about like, you know, people outside of the church saying this is so stupid or whatever, our intent is never to like mock or make fun of or belittle. We do have some like pithier, funnier moments. We did an episode where we unbaptized Joseph Smith and Brigham Young. And I probably fall a little bit more to that side, but our intention is never to be like, oh, these dumb fucks. Like that isn't, it is what she says with empathy and boundaries. Mm-hmm. And in one of our episodes, we actually talked about, she has a lot of empathy, and I do too. I'm an empathetic person, but my empathy runs out before hers. So even if I'm not trying to mock people, and again, some of our content is pithy. I did say magical underwear in one of our episodes.
Heretic. It was Heretic's fault.
I'm a heretic. But we're both empathetic for people who've been indoctrinated and are not able to find their way out. And indoctrination is a really difficult thing to escape, which is why it's so fascinating to me. But that's, my empathy sort of runs out where hers keeps going. So like as adults, because people are, and we talked about this, like there's at some point where maybe you do have to like look and see like, wow, all of these people, these thousands of people that have left and have said, holy shit, this organization did a number on me. My heart breaks for them. And then as adults still supporting that, it's hard for my brain to like, it's just a hard thing. And especially being here and not of this, like seeing it happen is my empathy sort of. I have empathy and then it runs out at the same time, which kind of sounds like it's a contradiction.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. Everyone has their limits.
So this comment from this was the same guy I was telling you about, the Nathan, the Finstead family. He says that there's a close family member that my wife has that hasn't returned a text in over 3 years. When I heard that the Finsteads left the church, like I said, I was bishop, and I texted, or I can't remember if I texted or called, but I texted them immediately, and I was like, dude, I just want you to know that you guys have been so, like, you have I love you guys. You guys are awesome. And at the time, I was trying to pull him back in, But later, Nathan had told me I was the first person to reach out to them. And since, I think he said, like, still haven't had anyone. So yeah, that happens a lot, and that's unfortunate. So
and that's part of like the double whammy of the cult tactics, because one, you tell all members, you cut yourself off right away. Don't you even expose yourself to that. And if, again, we've mentioned this, if something is true, you say, go ahead, or go ahead and look at other things, read other things. Like, this is the truth. You're going to come back to this. But there's this double whammy cult tactic of one saying, don't even engage, and making an example of anyone who leaves. You see what happened to that person? They don't have any friends anymore. They've been ostracized from their community, which again is a cult tactic to keep people tithed. And we say this every episode. It's all about that almighty 10%. And everything is curated to make people continue to pay that 10%. And that's what, like, it breaks my heart to like see so many people and see like the shit that she's going through now, leaving because of the number that the church did on her. It makes me sad.
Yeah.
Resilient.
All right. Well, let's
You're doing great. She's amazing.
Let's get in a little bit to your podcast. So before the podcast, I understand, Kate, from what I can tell, you had and have a really successful TikTok. We have interviewed. Do you know Samantha from TikTok? The
She's
Mormon
way
with those.
cool.
Yeah, I loved her. We
She's
had a great
amazing.
time with her. It looks like, now I don't know a lot about TikTok. You can't teach old guys new tricks, I guess. But according to followers, Kate, you have a bigger following, even that she had. So it looks like you've done really well with that. Is that something you plan on continuing, or is that?
Yeah, I have. I started it. It was actually a Mormon friend of mine when I left the church. It was August 2023, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Oh yeah, I've got a bunch of videos, and look, we advertised for our interview tonight.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, but so with this, I started on the advice of a friend, but I was going through everything. Like, I had quit my job, I was going through a divorce, I quit grad school, I had to move, I needed a new job, like everything that was happening all at once. So it started out as just a way for me, like, this is my life, and I actually had a lot of great help. One of my first viral videos happened that same month, where I was moving out of my house. My husband had just left. We were deciding to divorce, and I had no idea what the future held for me. I was moving into the basement apartment of a friend, and I had I had no place to move because we had sold our house like the week before we decided to divorce. And so I had reached out to a bunch of people and said, like, hey, who can help me out? It was only members, or like ex-members and never Mormons, that reached out and said, hey, I'll give you a place to live. Like, Mormons didn't. And I mean, that's not to say that no one would have, but nobody did. So I moved in with this friend, and but that day I was like, I am all alone. Like, I am all alone. My world has just changed, and who can help me? Like, I'm struggling here. Who can help? It became incredibly viral. There was an ex-Mormon from like across the valley. She's like, I'm bringing you breakfast right now. Where do you live? So she saw me in my time of need, and she showed up at the house and like spent the whole day packing with me. I had other like ex-Mormon friends that came and helped me out, and it was awesome. So I started there, and then I kind of use it as a way to do my faith deconstruction, and that's the thing that stuck the most is the faith deconstruction, and it resonates with a lot of people. So yeah, I believe I'm going to continue with this.
Well, it's a great channel. From what I can tell, there's a lot there. So awesome at putting out content. Is it okay if we watch this quick little TikTok right here where you guys introduce your, all right, let's watch that real quick.
Yeah, hey everyone, Erika and I are celebrating today with our champagne because we just launched our very first episode of our podcast at ExMo and at NeverMo. Walk into a bar. You can find it anywhere you find your podcasts.
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, like she said, anywhere you get your podcast on. So please check it out. Give us a subscribe, a like, share it. That would be really fantastic because we are excited to share with the world. And to celebrate, we have a bottle of champagne. So Kate, as an ExMo, now does not have to drink Martinelli's sparkling cider. When she's celebrating, she can have the real stuff. So to do the honors, we're going to let her open a bottle of champagne, something she's never done. So we're making history right now, and you're a part of this. We are making history.
We're dorks.
I've seen the movies. I know what happens. Ready?
Let's do it.
We are so excited to share with you finally. So please go ahead and visit this podcast, like, subscribe, share. We would greatly appreciate it. So again, cheers to deconstructing Mormonism.
So I thought that was great. While I'm on your TikTok page, is there anything? I mean, there's tons there. Is there anything that you're like, yeah, show this? I mean, I saw that there's some that definitely went viral. Lots of good content that I would point people to. But is there anything you think would be, like beneficial or neat to watch right now?
It's all so good.
It is.
It's almost better than others, but
Well, let me ask you this: in your TikToks, because I've watched some of them, but not nearly enough. Do you dive into? Is there like more of a theme that you tend to talk about, or is it just whatever comes to mind about ex-Mormonism, or how do you decide what content to talk about on there?
it would be nice if I had I had a schedule and planned it, but it's usually like in response to what other people say. When I first left, like my content was very like, I don't want to hurt your feelings. I just want to make sure that we're friends. I was very much that way. And then I went through like a bit of a villain era this last fall. And like, if somebody were to talk smack about me, I'm like, no, because my two guiding principles that I share over and over and over and over again are empathy and boundaries. Because I think they need to coexist. Like I can empathy for people. My empathy doesn't run out because I have boundaries. I'm like, nope, you can't do that. So oftentimes, like if somebody leaves me a really mean comment, I'll be like, I get to talk about that.
Thanks for the content.
Yes, it really is. And I mean, I was a former elementary school teacher. I mean, I taught for like 18 years. And oftentimes I think like, well, if you're going to act like a child, I get to treat you like a child. And so a lot of my content is just in response to that, or yeah, it's more organic than planned.
Okay.
But if I have something come to my mind, yeah, I got to share it.
Well, it's a great site. You want to tell everyone one more time where that is?
Yeah, I'm on TikTok as Midlife ExMo. It used to be Midlife ExMo Mama, but that was just a Midlife ExMo mouthful. So I dropped the mama part.
And I have to say, it is, I mean, I love it. That's what introduced me to Kate. And I just like I never saw anybody leave the church, and to see someone be so articulate about it and just sort of like deconstructing every aspect of it and going through everything that they were taught. And earlier, I think there's a lot of content that you respond to, but there's a lot of times also where you're just processing something and you'll just process it online. Like, this isn't true, or that isn't true. You brought a drink once. That was the one that stuck out for me, because I was like, Kate's drinking what? Before I knew her, because I knew that she wouldn't do that before, but she like bought with like a can of something.
I was like Mike's Hard Lemon. The first time I bought alcohol for myself was like at the Walmart, and I'm like, oh, I guess I do need to show my driver's license to buy something. Oh, like who'd have thunk? And so I was just like, oh, this 21-year-old is teaching me how to drink when I'm in my 40s. What's that?
Yes, yeah. I watched that podcast today, and that was awesome. I could totally relate to all of that.
I'm sure you can. Sorry, do you mind if I ask you, how old were you when you left, Nathan?
So I'm 45 now. I think I heard you guys say your age in one of your podcasts, but so I think we're close.
We're about the same age. I'm 46. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, it was about 2 years ago. So that's a long time to live, and to now the way I look at it, I want my kids to learn to deal with these things. Like learn the benefits and the things to be careful about with alcohol and with a lot of these things. Like there's so much more than just saying nope, not gonna do that or whatever. So I mean, there's benefits to it. I'll be the first to admit that there's things that can get can be dangerous, and I would rather my family and my friends be aware of those things rather than just told constantly how terrible it is.
Right.
And it's that way with everything. I mean, here, I don't know what it's like you're in Tennessee, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, here in Utah, there is this sugar phenomenon. So like, despite the word of wisdom and not, having alcohol or coffee, there's a soda stand on like every corner instead of a coffee stand. And then there are like drive-through dessert places. So there's a similar, it's just another addiction. And certainly, you're probably not going to crash your car if you eat too much sugar. There's definitely things to be wary of, but it's also, I mean, it can be really nice to have a couple of glasses of wine with your friends.
Yeah.
And to be able to make that decision, for yourself. And to me, that's one of the things about living here, like seeing people who've been stripped of that, just the ability to even make that decision. They just shut it down. And when I would tell people like, oh, my husband and I went out and had a couple cocktails this weekend, they looked at me like I was shooting off heroin. Like, oh, you did? Like, I mean, I literally could have come into work and said, yeah, I just like, tied my arm off and shut up this weekend. And I would have gotten the same reaction, which was bonkers. So I tried to like normalize it as much as I could. I don't think it worked, but yes, absolutely. It's there are dangers, but there's a reason that humans have fermented beverages for thousands of years and drank them.
Even the Lamanites drank, and the Nephites drank wine, right? Even Jesus drank wine.
He turned water into wine.
He turned water into wine.
And not only wine, but the best wine.
Right. Do you mind if I go back to a comment that was there earlier about like, the audience? I think someone was asking about our audience for our podcast. It is definitely not for for TBMs, for true blue believing Mormons. In fact, we try to at the beginning or sometime in most of our podcasts, we're like, if this is offensive to you, don't listen. Like we've listened to Mormon stories. They're very, very objective. We are very much more subjective. It's
subjective and silly. We have a different tone. I think a lot of it is a little bit irreverent. While it's not mocking, we don't ever want to mock. That's not our goal. But we do get a little silly sometimes, like with the unbaptism episode that we mentioned. That's
coming up tomorrow. Tomorrow.
But we try to be really respectful of people and letting them know if you're looking to cling to your faith, definitely this isn't for you. And even if you are like maybe questioning, unless you're ready to really kind of have some fun and be silly about it, it's probably not for you either, because we are a little bit irreverent, not mocking, but irreverent.
Right.
Maybe that'll be our new tagline.
Yeah, not mocking, but irreverent. I'll drink to that.
Okay, so you start the podcast, and what I've noticed, I alluded to this earlier, but so I'm in the video business, videography, and I've noticed that number one, it's a very high quality product that you guys are putting out. I'm seeing at least a 3-camera setup.
Well, for the first episode, yeah.
We had a DP for the first few. We were really, really actually sort of across the board. We were very, very lucky, and we are very, very grateful.
Yes.
We had a DP, Colin
Williams.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Colin Williams, who did our first few episodes, totally free, 3-camera setup. Yes, with mics. It was a whole big shebang, which was amazing. Chris Kovics, who is a good friend of mine, did the music. I called him up and I was like, hey, would you mind doing this? And I know him from a theater, the Unknown Theater that used to exist in Los Angeles that he was the artistic director for. And he was like, I'm on it. And he was really excited to like put together exactly what we wanted.
Didn't charge us.
Didn't charge us, totally free. We had a photographer, your friend.
Yeah, my friend is a photographer, and she's like, I've always wanted to shoot in a bar. I'm an ExMo. I'm gonna do this like like gratis. Like you don't have to pay us, like because people believe in this product. And
she did that.
my ex-husband, my first ex-husband, is also in the video industry, and I called him up like, hey, who do you know? And he's like, oh, I got you. So he's been really awesome. We no longer have the 3 camera setup. We still have 1, but we're learning like mad video editing skills, and we're learning how to edit our own stuff. So we're still learning, but it is it's a hell of a lot of fun.
It is so much fun. We have a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, as you probably know. It's so much work to.
Well, not
to
for
do.
Nathan. He's been doing this for years.
Well, let me tell on myself. So on around January 1st, I put out like a what is that called? A New Year's resolution kind of thing. And and I was like, you know what? This year I'm gonna quit being such a friggin' perfectionist. And what was in my mind was I had just started the podcast, and in this room, I was trying to shoot with all my fancy cameras and mics and everything, just like an intro video, like, hey, this is Nathan, the Bishop's interview, you know, this is what this channel's gonna be. And I swear, I must have took 30 takes on a little short minute video because I was worrying about everything. And I'm like, I can't do this if I'm going to sit here and worry. I ended up going back to my moonshine I'm like hitting the moonshine. I'm like, maybe I need a drink. And finally, I never even put out my intro video. And I was like, I have to stop. And around shortly after, so the first month I did all pre-recorded stuff. That's where I put out like why I left, is the word of wisdom wise, a bunch of other stuff. And then since then I found out, oh, I can go live and I can talk to Joey and Ray and some guy and Mike and all these people in the comments. And we mentioned earlier that there's a couple other podcasts going on. We still have 20 people with us, and we're very grateful. But
thank you.
Yeah. So since finding out I could go live and interact, I'm a people person, and I love being with people. And I think I drive my wife crazy because we'll throw some party or some event, and I'm like inviting. She's like, "Don't you think we have enough people? Come on, the more the merrier. Come on, everyone." So anyways, I can't remember what I was telling you other than I was very worried about on the editing side, like making everything perfect. And finally I was like, you know what? I'm going to hit go live and whatever friggin' happens. So,
that's awesome. Erica's been really good at helping me with that because I've been like, oh, we got to stop. Like I said it wrong. And she's like, Kate, come on. I'm like, oh, I'm so used to like the short content with the TikTok. Like I only have such amount of time. So I have to like edit the crud out of it. And Erica's like, it's okay.
I actually like this sort of like how the sausage is made. So if we're having a conversation in one of our episodes where one of us will say something like, oh, I don't think I've told you this before. Or, okay, we've talked about this, but and it feels more sort of like inside, like that is what a podcast is, rather than a TikTok video, which is like boom, 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 go. So we've worked it out, and there've been times she's like, we need to cut this, and I'm like, no, we're gonna leave it in. And eventually we may do a live as well. We just started about a month and a half ago, so we're just kind of like getting our footing. Although it feels like more than that.
It does.
Because
it's a lot of work.
It does, but in a good way. Like I feel like we were looking through our content today for putting together this reel, and our first episode we're so like an ExMo and a NeverMo we'll walk into
now.
And now like we have like kind of our thing down pat, and we've networked with some of the community here. We have like our different places that we go to. So we like all of that aspect, and in the same way we found community sort of in the live space. So like we're shooting right now at Land of a Thousand Hills Coffee. We were shooting at the break. We may go back there, But right now we're shooting at Land of a Thousand Hills Coffee. They do also serve alcohol, which is necessary.
And then I have a friend who just opened a brand new bar really close to here just this last weekend, also in ExMo. And we we tried to do a live this last Friday. It was too loud, but we're going bar hopping is what we're doing. So we're going to go from place to place and just like get to know the community in a local area, so we can find out like about these different little community watering holes and invite people to come and share their experiences with us in those areas. So
That's cool. Yeah,
and
I love it.
People have started to show up, which is really neat.
Yeah.
We had like someone message us and say like, her friend was in town and she'd seen our podcast, so she went to the break and brought her friend and watched us. And now we have like a little group that comes.
Like we have groupies.
Like,
we have groupies.
but like super amazing community
Yes.
members who have their own like businesses and crafts and like lend their talents. One of them, Pugs and Coffee, made us this like beautiful mug
Tumbler,
with our logo on it. So we find community kind of in the live spot because we're moving around, although we may do a live like this as well. And we've done some TikTok lives, which are also really fun, except for, when it's quiet enough for us to do them, not like last Friday.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me say the camera loves you guys. I think you definitely got a good thing going on there. I think it's really cool that you're able to shoot in some of these locations. I didn't know they would, allow that, really. So I think that's really cool. So the other thing I noticed is you're on a lot of different platforms, and that's really cool. I'm only on YouTube. Tell us where all people can find your content.
Everywhere you get your podcast. So we're on Apple Podcasts. We're also on YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and then
Couple
like
of
some
smaller
random
ones.
like listen
notes, some things like that. But we use it through Podbean, if that makes sense to anybody. So yeah, they're the distributor and they distribute it to all of these different places. So YouTube's where you get the video. Like we do the video, but you can listen as well.
Yeah, and then if you want to follow, just like to be able to know when we're going to drop new episodes or see little clips, because we're always sharing clips. YouTube is a good place for that. Two Nomos there. We also have a Facebook page and an Instagram page, Two Nomos, and we're always posting content. And
we're building a website that'll come up in the next little while. Yeah.
All right, let me pull this up real quick. So this is the YouTube page.
Yeah, with all like 45 of our followers. Yeah,
we're gonna be just started a month and a half ago.
Well, look, followers aside, your content's great. So, that's really all that matters.
So is yours.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I love what you guys are doing. So I just wanted to show the YouTube page since we're on YouTube right now. So definitely give them a follow. So the other thing, okay, I also had, let me see how I do this. Stop screen. So that was your YouTube. And then here is, here's the Instagram page.
Oh, yeah, Instagram,
why is this in a different language?
Not sure.
Oh, I don't know either. Okay. Well, anyways, I was going through and checking out once again. It's all great. So if you guys, are on Instagram, I guess this is Chinese or something. I don't have any idea why it's Chinese.
Oh yeah, that's really strange.
And then here was the, let me see, how can I share this? Stop and then share.
I'm thinking of looking into this platform. It's pretty cool that you have
this is awesome.
This is called StreamYard, and it's super user friendly. Even a dum-dum like me can figure it out. So it's really fun. It's really fun. So this is the on the Apple podcast. So once again, all great stuff. So just bravo on that side of things. So let me transition a little bit. I found this comment.
That was fun.
So this person said, "You must have been excommunicated for adultery, so you are now pissed at the church for your own whatever."
Did you see this?
Yes, a long time ago, or when it happened.
Yeah.
And then some other person was saying, "Only lazy asses stop probably
Yeah.
going to church is what they was trying to say. So
Yeah.
does it, I guess, number one, does it affect you guys when you get the hateful comments? How do you
No.
deal with it? Does it fuel the fire? Like, what's your thoughts around all that?
Well, I've been dealing with it for a little bit longer than you have, Erica. And for me, it has been like, I lead with empathy all the time. I lead with empathy all the time. And I think about the times when I am kind of a jerk to other people, it's usually like because I'm really insecure about myself. And I feel like I need to put other people down so I can feel better about myself. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So when I see people commenting like that, I always lead with empathy. Like, I get it. That must be really frustrating for you to, and I don't always say this, but like, you've got some self-loathing going on, is really what it is. And I don't believe in like piling on to their loathing, but I do believe in boundaries.
Mhm.
So I can also say like, yeah, you may feel this way and it's not okay. So both of those comments that you posted, I did a response video to that. And I was like, wow, that was so unchristlike.
Yeah.
Thanks for, and it was very much like, you're doing my missionary work for me, because if it were up to me, I would like let everybody start using their critical thinking skills and see the church for what it is, which is very harmful and it's abusive and it's manipulating and it is a cult. It's a cult. And so oftentimes these members will come on and say some really awful things, and I'm like, yes, empathy and boundaries, and I am going to comment on it.
Yeah.
And she I've taken a lesson from her. I am as a never Mormon, and just the way that I was born, I am a little more like fiery and I'm more reactive. So my first reaction is fuck you. But I try not to do that. And I've taken a page from her playbook, and I'll try to be like, well, let's look at, why you're saying this, and like break things down and be a little more, try to be less reactive. But I will also say, so, in some instances, I really enjoy being able to have a voice back at specific people around specific things that I like maybe couldn't have had. Like, definitely at work, I had to be very careful about how I couched things. But for example, we were in a live a couple of weeks ago, just in my house. We we were actually testing it, and we ended up doing this whole TikTok live thing. And someone got on. I don't remember exactly what they said, but they kind of like put me in my place and told me, I should join the church and something else. And in the middle of it, they said something about the patriarchal, you need a patriarchal blessing or something like that. And I was like, what? Like, you just made my point. And they were like just typing. So it was nice that I could like just talk and like you just told me why don't I need a matriarchal blessing? And I got to kind of like go like say things that I couldn't say in other instances. Like, look at this for a second. Why would I, as a woman, want to belong to an organization that tells me I need a patriarchal blessing? Come back at me when it has anything to do with women. A matriarchal blessing, when women are allowed to have any positions of leadership, which is one of the big sticking points for me about the church, is that this organization doesn't believe women are capable of holding positions of leadership. So I actually really enjoy having to be tempered, because it is our brand. So I can't be like, fuck you. But being able to make a point and like come back and say the things that I want to say to people with people that I would ordinarily not be able to engage with, if that makes sense.
And the thing that I'm learning from Erika too is like standing up for yourself. I mean, she's so passionate. Like, I love this woman's passion about things, and like she wants to stand up for the little guy. And I mean, I'm sure you were in a similar situation. Like, we were the little guy. We were told like, just like turn the other cheek, just be a doormat. Just let everybody walk all over you. But Erika is like teaching me like, no, you got to stand up for yourself. And when that's not okay, you got to say it's not okay. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think we balance each other really well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's why our friendship works. And it's why I think the podcast is working to some extent. And we were like, as we were, when we sort of conceived of the idea and we were getting closer to launch, I don't know about you, but I was like, we'd had all these conversations, and I was like, is this going to translate when we have a camera in front of us? Like, because we'd just be like, pow, 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 pow. We get together and have these conversations.
Yeah.
And I was like, are we going to sit in front of the camera and be like, so? And it didn't happen. It was the same.
We have to cut stuff. We're going too long, and we can't be more than an hour. So
yeah. So it's been really nice, and I do feel like we have the sort of complementary just skill sets and personalities and voices and things that we learn from each other.
Yeah,
which is nice.
Well, I think you have a great thing going. I love your spunk, Erika. And, so Ruth is in the comments here. Ruth is a friend of mine and a frequent co-host on my show. And she's also on TikTok, and she's been my connection to some of these other folks that we've had on the show from TikTok. So it's great to have her on, and I'm sure she's probably come across your content as well. So as far as like the hater comments, when I first started, I also did quite a few response videos because I was like, oh, hell no. Like, you know, get a response, get a comment, and I'm like doing a whole video responding to it. I think I've quit doing that. So the hater comments to me now, they kind of fall on deaf ears. Like it's water off a duck's back or whatever. The comments now that kind of sting, and there was a girl, I know her name, but I'm not going to name her. She is an ExMo. And she was watching, I was on, I don't know if you guys know, ExMo Joe is his name.
Yeah, he's cool.
So I was on his podcast getting interviewed by him, and I was being asked some questions and just responding. And I'll admit it, we had a couple drinks. We were kind of, you know, we were just being a little free and silly. And she comments, did I just walk into a middle school boys' locker room? And then, you know, she's like, I didn't come here, like I came here for reasons why people leave Mormonism, not for this, you know, we were talking about some sexual type topics, which I hate to tell you, but that has a lot to do with friggin' Mormonism.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're doing a whole episode on that
We're
soon.
doing a series,
Yeah, we're doing a series. I won't tell the name of it just yet. It's very spicy. And it relates to conversations that we've had. And it's going to be the first episode that we shoot. We're going to shoot it in my house. So it's not public because it is going to be.
Yeah.
And we're going to, I think, go from sort of more surface level, like overall practices that the Mormon church teaches, like you can't do this and this and this. And then the kids the things that the kids are doing, like soaking and jump pumping, which you probably know about. And then get a little bit more personal, because I think one of the things a lot of people want to know, my husband and I have had conversations with people or with each other about people that we know, like, okay, wait, they're Mormon. They're in their like 50s or 60s. So they're not having, do they just stop? Like people want to know, we wanted to know, you know, so like there's all this, we're going to break that down.
Yeah.
In sort of a 2 or 3 part series, but
make sure when you do your episode that and I'm sure you will, you mentioned the blowjob letter that the First Presidency sent out. You know all about that, Kate?
Oh, I saw this the other. I think I showed it to you.
Yeah.
Can you go into it? My brain is like.
Yeah, I can go into it. So I don't have all the backup right here beside me, but basically the First Presidency sent out a letter to the bishops. Telling them that it is unnatural and not becoming of a temple recommend holder to engage in oral sex. They spelled it out. Well, the bishops started meeting with individuals, with families, and I know many people who have told me, yes, the bishop asked us if we were engaging in oral sex in an interview. And, well, long story short, everyone started freaking out, you know,
Because nobody's going to the temple anymore.
And then the First Presidency sends out another letter basically shaming the bishops for doing exactly what they told them to do.
They are so good at throwing their members under the bus. They will never
Yes.
apologize, but they'll throw the members under the bus.
Yes.
Oh, I'm so mad.
And so then the First Presidency sent out another letter, but they did not back down from their previous letter, but the new letter was very like coded and ambiguous and not calling out specifically oral sex. They were just, you know, it should always be consensual, you know, just normal stuff. So yeah, there's all kinds of fun stuff. The church is so interested in sex, which surprised me from this particular person who was like, why are you guys talking about sex? This isn't why I left the church. And I'm like, well, good for you, but this is a big topic for a lot of people.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the reasons that we're going to dive into it. And that is, what'd you say?
It's cult.
Cult,
I know
my buddy's
cult.
in 5 here. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things I think that cults can't tell you like not to eat in general. They can tell you to fast at certain times or whatnot. And religions do that, or not to like go to the bathroom. But there are things that we're wired to do as people, and sex is one of them. And it's one of those things that can be controlled and used as a manipulation tactic. But you're not going to die if you don't do it. It's just that we're really, really hardwired to do it. So it's one of those things that you can control without killing people, which is interesting. And then to add the layer to it again, like you have to get married very young so that you can have sex, which is why, you know, all the kids in Utah Valley are getting married when they're 18 so they can go have sex. And here, I don't know if you know this, but from Salt Lake City, they'll actually drive
To Vegas.
get married, bang their brains out for a weekend, get it annulled, and come back, which is wild.
Wow.
And we're definitely gonna touch on all of this, which I'm really excited. And talking about like the community nature of it, the people that we shoot with. One of the ladies who owns the Land of a Thousand Hills, she's like, I will cater it. I'll bring some food, hugs and coffee. This other woman, Michelle, is there. She's like, I'll bring some wine. So we're going to have like a little ladies' night at my house, set up here and like do a whole episode on sex. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. No, and I think, and Erica's been great too, because there's sometimes she'll say some things like, are you ready for this episode? I'm like, oh, I don't think so yet, because I'm still in the deconstruction phase. And she's like, she's totally awesome. She's like, okay, we'll wait until you're ready. And then I'm like, I'm ready. And then we're going to do it.
I'm really excited for that one. I think both for like Mormons and non-Mormons and ex-Mormons, it's kind of interesting because it's one of those things that like we as never Mormons wonder about, like, how's this? Do they have, like, for just one quick example, and we'll talk about this in probably the episode, but I knew someone at work who was Mormon. She got married when she was 28, and she told me proudly that was, you know, she lost her virginity on her wedding night. And I said, oh my, I don't think I said God to her because I knew it would offend her. Oh my goodness. I said, well, how did you know it would be good? Because like I would never marry someone without sleeping with them. I didn't say that part. But she looked at me and she was like, it didn't even compute. Like it's supposed to be good. Like she was like, what are you talking about? She didn't say that, but she just kind of looked at me like, what do you mean good? Like, I don't think even for women, especially in the church, they even understand that sex is supposed to be something that they enjoy. It's just something you do to have babies, or at least that's like my perspective. Yeah. So anyway, we're going to delve into all this because I think it's fascinating.
There's a lot to talk about there. And so, I think that will be a great episode, and I'll be waiting for it to drop.
Couple of weeks. That'll be several weeks out, probably.
Okay, well, what would you guys say? Do you have like an overall, I guess, intent or goal with your channel? Or are you kind of open-minded and just kind of going wherever it leads you? Or what would you say is the purpose of your channel?
we actually got together when we first started doing this. We sat down for like 3 days to knock out our mission statement because I feel like we both felt it was really important for us to be focused. Because largely for me, I still have a lot of friends and family who are members of the church, and I genuinely don't want to hurt anybody. But as we got together and talked about our mission, it's kind of twofold. The first is to build community for people who have been hurt. I mean, knowing what it was like for me, having left the church, I was like floundering, like who are my people? And I was grateful to find like this community on TikTok and with my barbershop friends and one thing and another. But we want to provide community for people who have been hurt. And also it's to call out the church for their shitty practices, because there are a lot of shitty practices that they do. They hurt people. Yeah. And it would be great to like just shine a light. I mean, yes, they're a multi-billion-dollar organization. There's not much that we can do to like take them down or anything like that. But we can shine a light. And we can, like you, Nathan, like we don't want to lie about the church, but we're being truthful about it, and we're also having fun. So
yeah. I mean, I think the inspiration behind it was just the fact that whenever we got together, we just had these conversations that we found fascinating.
We think we're really funny.
And just like so much of it was interesting. Like there was stuff that she would say to me and I'd be like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, and then vice versa. And we've noticed like her friends will say to her, it's so interesting to hear the perspective of somebody who hasn't been a part of the church, who's been exposed to the church. And my friends will say to me, my God, it's so interesting to hear this perspective of someone who's ostensibly been in a cult. So like we have these sort of like separate audiences that like her friends are my audience and my friends are her audience. But I think also, like she said, shining a light on the harmful practices of the church. The thing that really, I've said this in a couple of episodes, I hate bullshit. And I especially hate bullshit when it's used to coerce people or manipulate them, to abuse them, to take something from them. To exploit them. That's the word. So to see this organization who they know, like they know, the leaders know it's fucking bullshit. And they keep doing it because of money and power. And to me, to be able to like, to just have a tiny, tiny voice to be able to call that back, and all the harm it does to LGBTQ, to different races, to women, like that, all of those groups are very important to me. So being able to have a tiny, tiny, tiny space in the world to be like, this is crap. It is in service to this 10% that this organization is stealing from people. They should stop. That is nice to be able to have for me, that's like sort of drives me, is being able to just shine a light on all the harmful, shitty practices of this bogus organization.
And we do it with fun. And we also do it because my ex-husband probably knows that we're together. It's probably driving insane.
I love it.
I'm not prideful.
Not the first one, the second one.
The first one's helping us. He's great. Second one.
So the only, I guess the last two questions really that I had was, do you want to address maybe any challenges that you've had with starting up the podcast? And then also what has been so far like the most rewarding thing? Anything that comes to mind with either of those two?
Yep. Yeah.
The most challenging, I think, has just been also very rewarding is we're really doing everything right now. So we did have a lot of help in getting started from different people. But it would be nice to be able to, we're both very creative people. So to like put together an episode, here's what we're going to do. These are the topics that we're going to cover, shoot it, hand it to someone, say like, edit this. But we're sort of in the trenches doing everything. Luckily, I'm getting my master's degree right now. I quit my job in October, so I'm unemployed. She's starting a job in a few weeks. But to have the time, that's been the most challenging thing, I think, is to
learn
everything, which is also really cool. At some point, it would be fun to not do like literally everything. Is that what you would say?
Yeah, well, and also we even did an episode, a very special Two Nomos, where we talked a little bit about like Erika was all revved up, like, yeah, let's do this. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I tell people all of the time that like leaving the church or even doing this podcast is a lot like Rapunzel coming down from the tower. And she's like, this is the best day ever. And then the next minute she's like, what am I doing? I'm gonna ruin my family's lives and break their hearts. And so for me, it was just a roller coaster. Like I feel passionate about this. I want to do this with Erika, but at the same time, there was like, I don't want to disappoint everybody that I know and love.
Yeah.
And I kind of had to, I mean, I've had some friends call me out because of this podcast. And I'm like, I love you. Don't listen to it. Like, this is not for you. And with my own family, I mean, my parents are still very, very, very much in the church. And I've had to have conversation with them saying like, do not listen to this. This is not for you. And it's been hard.
And on the rewarding side is the flip side of that. So there've been lots of people who've reached out in personal messages on TikTok, on different platforms, and said, thank you so much. You've made me feel less alone. You've made me feel less crazy.
I feel heard. I feel seen.
Yeah, this is giving me hope. That feels amazing. Like, it's really fun to be able to do all the creative stuff that we're doing and plan everything out. Like I said, we're both creative people, but to know that we get to do that and people feel helped by it is so awesome. Every time we get a message like that, it's like, yay!
It was worth it. Yeah. You probably get the same, right, Nathan?
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a folder where I have some of these same comments where there's one that's just really pulls at my heartstrings, and she's telling the world it was actually on a Facebook post of mine. She's like, listen, if these two, speaking of myself and my wife, didn't speak out, like I was at the end of my rope, if you know what I mean. And now that I see that, because we're actually also related, now that I see that I'm not crazy, and she goes on to say, you know, I can go another day. And I mean, it's really quite a beautiful message. And I've shared it a few times on my show, but yeah, you know, that's why I do it. We joke about on my channel a little bit that it's almost like a therapy session for me to talk these things out. So, you know, I just want to say bravo to you guys. I think you've got something started that's going to last a long time. I want to encourage everyone to find these two. I think you can find them anywhere, according to what I've seen, even on the Chinese, whatever it was. So give these two a follow. I think that if you know, you've already seen in this hour and a half that they're great. They have so much to offer, and I just wish you guys all the success in the world. And if there's ever anything I can do for you on your channel or anything, I'd definitely love to do that.
We're going to have you on.
We'll have you on as a guest.
We're definitely going to have you on very soon. We have a couple of episodes planned, but after that, we would love to have you on and to hear your full story on our podcast. That would be amazing. So we will be reaching out probably in like an hour.
All right. Well, everybody is saying thank you. Your voices are needed. Mark's even saying he'd buy you a drink.
Oh, thank you.
I think we've had a great time. Anything on your hearts or minds or wanted to share? I don't want to cut you off too early, but I know you have other things to get to. They say please put their please put their link in the description. I'll do that. But once again, it is an ExMo and a NeverMo walking to a bar. I thought I had a couple other, two Nomos on YouTube. So I'll also include some of those links. Any other thing in closing that you guys wanted to share?
Just thank you.
Yeah, we're so grateful for this chance to meet with you. You're a great people person, a great host. We love what you're doing too. So thanks for having us on.
And I'll say one of the other things that is really rewarding is like just meeting other cool people, other content creators, people who have voices, who are being creative, who are stepping out into the world with their thoughts and creation. That is awesome. And one of the the most fun things for me is like I would have never met you if I wasn't doing this. And it's really cool to hear some of your story, and I can't wait to dive into it on our podcast and hear a little bit more about everything where you've come from. Super
All
rewarding.
right. Well, ladies, I don't know if it's inappropriate, but I'll join Mark. I got two hotties here, so thanks for joining me. Let me get rid of these.
She's
Thanks
He's looking for love. Okay.
Thanks for joining me in the Bishop's interview. This has probably been one of my favorite Bishop's interview in the Bishop's office here. So I'm going to let you gals get back to your lives and just tell you once again, thanks a lot, and keep it going. You're doing great work.
Hey,
Thank you so much. You too.
Appreciate it.
All right, take care. I'm going to let y'all go.
You too. Take
Bye.
care. Have a good night.
All right. All right, guys, I told you I would have an awesome episode. I'm really happy for these two. They got a lot of good things going. So I just want to say thanks for joining us. If I think I have something really fun for tomorrow, I have it in the works. I'm pretty sure it's going to go down, so make sure you join me. Probably be at 9 o'clock tomorrow Eastern. But with all that, I'll say thanks a lot. Have a good night. Thanks for spending this time with us. And everyone, take care. Here's our exit music. Take care.